one of the things that, we can say is, can you take a vacation? Oh yeah, I could take a vacation. For how long? Well, we were just out of town for, long weekend, 4-day weekend. Cool. 4 days. Can you go for a week? Yeah, I could probably go for a week. Could you do 2 weeks? My emails would just be stacked up. And I mean, I could do it, but I'd have to work. Could you take a month off? Could you take a month off with no email and no phone calls?
Welcome to the Value Factory Podcast, brought to you by One Accord. We're all about helping businesses thrive and grow through leadership, strategy, and meaningful impact. Now, whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out, our goal is to provide insights and inspiration to help you navigate your journey. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Value Factory. I'm delighted to be joined by Wade Sugiyama. And Wade is a friend. He's a part of our One Accord community. And I think of Wade as being an expert storyteller, but there's way more to that. We're going to talk about it. Wade, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for having me. I'm excited. I've been hearing you talk about the podcast, so I'm excited to be a part of it. It's great.
Awesome. When I introduce you as being an expert storyteller, I think of our mutual friend, Ish Ramos. Yeah. And he just gave you a testimonial for some work that you did.
Yeah.
And what I remember from that is that you got it in the first take. There was no rewrites. Like, you were able to extract from him the story he was trying to tell. So let's start there. But, if that's the message, maybe frame that with, kind of your background and what you're doing now. And, tell us a story, Wade.
Well, it began with this, what I call like a marketing epiphany that I had maybe about 1.5 years or 2 years ago. And I was asked I was at an agency, and I was asked to come up with sort of a point of view on, at the time I was working in loyalty, like customer loyalty, asked to come up with a point of view on the landscape of customer loyalty. And as I was doing that, I was researching it and I was figuring out how I want to come up with my specific point of view. I came across this story about Gus and Anna. Gus is a dog and Anna's his owner. And, Anna was a Chewy.com customer. And when Gus passed away, she had the job of trying to return food to Chewy.com, and found out that when you do that, when you tell Chewy the story of what happened, Chewy will actually say, hey, you don't need to send us the food. We will refund you for the food, but you go donate it to a shelter. She got flowers. She got a letter in the mail from the customer service rep. And just an amazing experience that she had. Well, what I kind of realized in that moment was not just my perspective on loyalty, but my perspective on marketing came down to this idea of creating moments that matter. And it fused with this idea that I came across StoryBrand. So Building a StoryBrand, the book by Donald Miller. These things sort of happened to me at the same time where I came across these things. And I just saw the value in how the story was told of Anna and Gus and this idea of moments together. And so, like, even with Ish, we talked a lot about what he was trying to do for his potential customers in this event and trying to build what that story should be like to be able to tell. And I think it's more than just copywriting now, especially now marketers and business owners just have to be so much better at talking to audiences because it's just, there's not very much time and attention. So what I do, I like to say, like, because time and attention is so hard to come by now, as opposed to in the past, marketers and businesses come across these marketing slumps very often where they can't break through. They can't figure out, they're trying to pull all these levers, but they can't break through in their marketing. And so what I do is I help teams, I help marketers, I help business owners, what I call create moments that matter, so they can gain more time and attention, earn more time and attention from their audiences, and then kind of break through those slumps. So just a quick, synopsis of what I do.
There's a few things in there. Moments that matter.
Yes.
And those moments are literally moments in the context of another thing you said, which is time and attention.
Time and attention.
I think of attention span.
Yes.
I think of content even that I'm creating, and I'm thinking, what what am I saying in the first 3 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
And even exploring that is kind of like I'm thinking about the first 3 seconds of a piece of content
Right.
for the hook, because otherwise somebody's going to scroll past it.
Right.
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 And then if the rest of that story doesn't matter, and then I use the word tinkering. I'm tinkering with content all the time, just, little things here and there. Then I think of, well, we're in the space of AI and large language models and generative AI, but that isn't a solution.
Right.
It's not a solution. You
Right.
said copywriting, had me going there. So, of all of those things that I've just kind of pulled out of what you said, there's attention,
Right.
there's copywriting, the moments that matter. What's the most important of those things to you, or from your perspective?
So in my mind, for me, it's really about the moments that matter, because it comes down to, in my mind, that like we're all sort of human, and like sometimes when we get into a business and customer position, we take on a different persona almost. And sometimes if the answers to break through some of those things sometimes comes back to how we do things as humans.
Why do you think that is? When we get into a business interaction, we start to behave differently, take on a persona.
That's a great question. I think there's probably a lot of different answers and very personal answers for people, but there's this concept that I talk about. It comes from StoryBrand, about storytelling. This idea that in storytelling, there's usually a hero, they encounter a problem, and then they encounter a guide character. And it's just very most common for all of us, customers and business owners, to sort of center ourselves as the hero of the story. It's just sort of natural for us to position ourselves that way. And so once you're in that story that you're trying to win the day, you're going to do whatever it takes. You're going to ask, you're going to sell, you're going to push, you're going to whatever it takes to like win the day.
But when we're talking to our customers, StoryBrand would say make them the hero.
Correct.
Does that mean we have to be the guide?
It means, yes, exactly. We have to be the guide. Think about in like personal relationships, we don't usually come into like that where like I'm the hero, you have to like I have to tell you all about me. Like we don't all love to sit with somebody who just wants to talk about themselves. Or like a really great friend is such a great listener and is listening to you, and they're being a great listener and being a great friend to you. So in that way, like we need to do that for customers as well in a lot of different ways. We still want to succeed in business. We still want to do those things. But that's where I think the moments that matter is such a great center point, where you can do both. You can you can do good for people, but you can also win in marketing and business.
You might have like broken my thinking, and this isn't the first time. So when you presented in our community in that setting, first of all, your presentation got like you raised the bar. Like so many people in the community had questions for you, and they were really connecting.
Yeah,
that was a moment that mattered.
Yes.
If I can borrow your,
I appreciate that.
And so then I find myself observing. So I go to these networking meetings. I was at one last night, right? And I'm shaking hands, handing out business cards, and everybody that I'm talking to is giving me their elevator pitch.
Sure.
And they're talking about me, right? and I'm observing. I don't have the answer yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see this now. It's almost like I took the red pill, right?
Yes.
I see it differently now.
Yeah.
I don't know the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to not be like that yet. I'm still fighting the matrix, but how do you help? I'm presuming you do that.
Yes, absolutely.
That you help people shift from being the hero to being the guide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that an accurate statement?
Absolutely. So my company is called Guide the Hero Consulting for that reason. Yeah, but the first step is exactly what you experienced, which I'm very grateful that you've had that experience. Just now I see it differently.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to see it in different marketing campaigns or different, in just how somebody pitches that like, oh, they are kind of pitching themselves as the hero. But you kind of understand it too. Like that is natural. It's normal. It's not like, but in this world of time and attention, it's really easy to be ignored if you do that, because everybody does that. Right. And that's kind of the risk now. In traditional marketing, it didn't matter as much because you didn't have as much as many kind of things fighting for your time and attention or
Yeah.
opportunities. And so some big company says, we're the best ever at this, we're the hero. There's not much else kind of fighting for your time and attention to compare or to do any of that. But now we have all the tools to compare, to research, to like do whatever we need to do. And so what we're looking for is a guide that says what you're going to actually do is you're going to solve my problem, which sort of is that next step. Is like, once you do that, one of the best ways is, one, to be able to empathize with whoever your customer is. I understand you.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is it even possible to do what you're saying in one sentence?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
And the twist is really about, we talked about like Men's Warehouse as an example I use all the time when they say like, you're going to love the way you look. It is all about how you're going to feel and look when you come out here. Now, it doesn't tell you we have the best suits, we have the best, we have the best selection, we have the best people. It's just saying you're going to love the way you look, right? And that's just a tagline, right? That's not a whole marketing campaign, but it's just an example of how you
it's
can
in the
kind
context of taglines.
Yes.
That I'm curious about this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you can do it in short, and that's sort of the beauty of it is because of time and attention, you can't waste too much time, right? And storytelling in general is hard to do
you got one line.
That's right.
You got 3 seconds. You got the hook. And
that's right.
How do you get, like, I'm imagining that you're workshopping with people. So your clients are the owners of companies, their individual brands, maybe a solo practitioner or a tens, dozens, hundreds of people in a company. Like, you've worked for very large organizations.
Yeah, I've consulted for Starbucks and Samsung and KFC, like so AARP, big brands.
But then our friend Ish is Ish.
Yes.
So you're, one guy to 1,000 people.
Right.
Okay.
For those companies, it's really their marketing teams that I end up working with. Yeah.
How long does it take to get somebody from me to you, from hero to guide? Like,
so I would say the quickest way, and what I typically will do for customers, is I can do a full day-long workshop that really helps you walk through the whole framework and be able to get there. But just on the messaging part of it.
I'm just guessing it takes that long.
Yes.
I've been in workshops, and even in a full day, I couldn't. Like, even right now, the epiphany of, like, from hero to guide. Yeah. I'm still in it. Yeah. There's a process for me.
Yes.
And I'm an ideal client for you, actually. Yeah. And so you're observing, you're just watching me go through. It's like,
I love it.
Like Bambi trying to walk, or like, baby taking a first step.
Yeah.
For some, it takes more than a day.
Yes. So the full day is really for that moment. But then what we start to do is we start to apply it to your business, and that helps solidify it, because now it's like, oh, I see how I would use this concept on what I talk about. But what I usually recommend to clients is like some level of follow-up where we kind of meet once a week after the workshop, so that, hey, as you build the campaign, or as you build your like launch messaging or your event, your landing page messaging, I can help sort of like steer you. Because now we have the language that we just kind of built together, in the workshop. And now I usually recommend sort of like a 4 to 5 week kind of like afterward to get to your launch or to get to your next kind of stage.
So I'm going to say myself, my peers, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I want a Men's Warehouse tagline. You're going to love the way you look.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure there's others.
Yeah.
That are customer centric. Rather than, we are going to dress you well. Right. You're going to love the way you look. I don't have that right now. We don't at One Accord. Sure. Ours is, we're the heroes. Right. We would say, we lead organizations through transition and growth. It's about what we do. Right. So here, just processing through that, I would think that I want it. So I just think everybody wants the same thing. That tagline. That's all right. Then what do you do with that? So you've got that. If we've been able to shift our perspective from I'm the hero to I'm the guide, they're the hero.
Yeah.
It's not just a tagline.
Yeah. It's not just a tagline. That's
No.
right. So what I would recommend doing is, so in the StoryBrand framework, I usually will walk clients through the entire framework then. So tagline is one soundbite that comes out of it that you can repeat over and over, that your clients can then repeat, right? That's one soundbite. The StoryBrand framework uses story, right? The whole thing, it's based on this pattern of storytelling that's been used generations after generations for some of the most famous stories we've ever all heard.
Oh, yeah.
And so
from Frodo Baggins
right,
to Luke Skywalker,
all of them,
to King David.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there are 7 parts to the framework. Each of the 7 parts essentially can create different sound bites that you can use in lots of different marketing collateral, lots of different areas. Mm-hmm. So that's usually the first place, is what's called a brand script in StoryBrand. And I usually help clients like put that together. And then it starts to pull the whole thing together, because that's really about, hey, what problem are you solving? You go deep into problems. Like, okay, how do you show up as a guide? So the one place where you talk about yourself is when you are actually trying to present yourself as the guide, right? And it's like, that is where you have to demonstrate competency, right? And empathy. That's how you say, I'm a guide. I understand your problem, and I'm the right person to help you with that problem. And then the rest of it is all about customer, right? Is all about the hero. But there's only one part in the whole 7 parts that's really about you, and that's a guide. That's the guide piece. But then you talk about your plan. Like, what is the simple plan that you need your clients to take? Give me a 1, 2, 3 step plan. It's a call to action. It's your success and your avoid failure, right? So there's basically all these different things that you're going to learn to write and create in that voice of the guide, that you create all these different sound bites that, given different scenarios, you can pull from to create different versions of your copy.
So I'm familiar with the construct that I refer to it as the arc of the hero's journey.
Right, the hero's journey.
And I think of the hero, the villain,
right,
the guide, the threshold guardian, and the let's stop there. The threshold guardian.
Mm-hmm.
This is the voice that says, "Thou shalt not pass." Right? you can't come to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a part of the work that you do? Do you identify that person?
No, not necessarily. So that's not necessarily part of StoryBrand. I'm familiar with that character. I think there's a lot of what the guide does that's similar to that, but that character not necessarily in this.
This is so I use the hero's journey in the context of like personal self-development, right? And identifying this cast of characters.
Yeah.
For entrepreneurs, the threshold guardian can be Google My Business. No, we're not going to let you set up a profile unless you have an address that we can verify. Right? Then you have to overcome that.
I see.
But there's also, for so many of us, human beings, and then entrepreneurs as a subsection of that. The threshold guardian is like, well, no, you're not going to scale your business. You're not going to grow. You can't have that thing.
I see.
You're never going to make $1 million.
I see.
You made $1 million, but you're not going to go into another state. You're not, right? You're never going to be able to sell your business. And often it becomes like the lie that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And we need a guide to take us around that.
Yeah.
Before the threshold guardian in the hero's journey is the herald. And this is the person that is calling the hero to action. Right. So there's a call to action in what you just said. And for some, that call to action is the first time someone hears or thinks, you should start your own business. You had a call to action.
I did.
You worked in an agency.
Yes.
And then you were called. What's your story?
So I was at an agency for about 7 years, worked with a lot of different clients. I loved my team there. I loved kind of what I did there. But as I was kind of like talking earlier about my epiphany, about the kind of moments that matter, and then the StoryBrand kind of like the framework, got my certification in StoryBrand, and I just started to feel like I wanted to do that all the time. And it wasn't what I was doing at the agency all the time. Right? I did it some with my clients. I brought it to every client that I could,
Yeah.
and they got excited, and there was a lot of interest in it, and so I kind of had this call in a lot of ways to do this on my own, and there are other StoryBrand guides, other StoryBrand coaches that run their own businesses, and I was inspired by them, inspired by their entrepreneurs, and made the jump. But I've always kind of I've had that kind of entrepreneurial side in me. I started my first, you call it a business, when I was in high school. I was a DJ with a buddy of mine. We used to go around and DJ to like grad parties and school dances. And then in college, I started a dance company, which was a dance performing company. Then it was a dance studio. Then I started an eBay business a while back that turned into an e-commerce startup, but then I had to close that down. Hardest thing I've ever done was to close that business down. It was a very kind of identity shaker for me. And from there, I kind of went into corporate. I was at T-Mobile, then I was at this agency. And I thought that was all, all my businesses were before kids. And then, I was in corporate, and I kind of thought, I don't know if I'll ever make it back to that. But I've always felt kind of like this pull to do it. But it was really hard. That last one I closed was a really tough blow to my own identity, that whether or not I could do it, my own shaking of my own confidence. But man, after spending time with StoryBrand, spending time with Moments, going to clients with it, and just like feeling the energy around it, I just felt like this was the right time to make that jump.
Here's what I love. There's a few things that are inspiring about that background, but what I love about it is your clients, entrepreneurs, can see themselves in your story. Like I'm thinking of Edison, the Edison bulb, right? He didn't get it right on the first time, but just was called to it. And you found something that you've got clearly deep passion and conviction for, an experience that you can have empathy for the clients that you're serving. There's the heralds, the calling you, hey, this is your thing. The threshold guardian there saying like, nah, you can't do this. But in your own story, you overcame that. So in the hero's journey, the hero departs on the journey, faces the villain, overcomes, but then comes back, brings wisdom back, like comes back to the village to teach everybody what they've learned. Right?
They become the guide.
That's exactly it.
Right.
The hero becomes the guide.
Right.
So having faced those trials, tribulations, those challenges, crossed over the threshold, battling Goliath in the valley with just a couple of rocks,
right,
and then coming back to be,
it's a beautiful story. And in my workshops, we always talk about, I like to have discussions, and I just did a couple of guest lecturing at UW with some undergrads, and I always love talking with them because they're so energetic and they're just like ready to learn. We always have this discussion about simply the hero and the guide. And do you want to be the hero or the guide? Like, the hero usually in the beginning doesn't know anything. They're usually like ignorant, or they're like,
and they're beat
weak.
up.
Yeah, they're weak, right? The guide is the one that you kind of want to be. They're the ones that know, right. They're wise, they're strong, right? And so like, it's kind of, it helps sometimes think about that and be like, yeah, actually the one I want to be is the guy, is the one after the hero completed all the journey, became the strong one, and came back.
But I relate to the hero.
Yes.
Not so much because of the hero's win, but because of the hero's suffering.
Yes.
Because that's where I see myself.
Yeah.
I think humanity loves the underdog. And I can point to this in any venue, anywhere.
Right.
Tom Brady, undoubtedly the most decorated, successful quarterback, and nobody likes him because, and listen, there's reasons, but top of the game, right?
Right.
Anybody on top, humanity finds reasons
Right.
to try to take down, but supports the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, I think it's because we see ourselves in that position.
Yes.
So when there's the hero and there's the guide, I just don't know that people. I'll just talk about myself. I don't know that I ever see myself as the guide.
Right.
I see myself as the hero that's struggling to win.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a young banker, the guides, the sage, the Gandalfs in my life, the Obi-Wans, they would say that their greatest achievement in their career wasn't money, wasn't title. It was watching a mentee develop.
Yes.
And I was the mentee to these. And I was like, that just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, I mean, obviously the greatest success in your life is that you're, multimillionaire or whatever, right? Like, that's where my sights were set. But I was like, okay, everybody I respect and admire says this, like, to a person. Everybody I respect and admire says that the greatest reward in their career is watching somebody
absolutely
develop. I'm like, well, I better pay attention to that. So then I would just start, imitating that.
Right.
Before I even believed it. And it wasn't like fake it till I make it. It was like, this must be a thing. And so here I am in this position where, I'll be 46. So I'm not in that, what I would classify that, sage guide yet. I think that's like 60 plus is where I go. But I'm talking to like my kids' friends that are 18 or 19.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that was me. And I'm now them. I still don't see myself as the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All of that storytelling connects into this notion of like, how hard is it to get someone to step out of the hero persona and into the guide persona?
Right. It is very hard. And I will say that it is one of the biggest challenges for in any client interaction. It's just trying to come to that realization and also trying to understand how valuable that realization is. Part of it, I think, is because we've been doing marketing in a certain way for so long. We just have like a way that we've seen work before, but like the environment has changed, right? You talked about 3 seconds, right? Like there's data that shows people used to read emails for 15 seconds. I don't remember that necessarily, but there's data that says that at some point people read an email for 15 seconds. And, there was data that I know for like email marketing, you're talking 6 to 8 seconds. And now if you're trying to be in social, it's 3 seconds. Like the world has changed, right? Like the marketing landscape has changed. So how well are you as a company and a business able to adapt to that when it comes to marketing? And that's why I see so many more marketing slumps happen more often, because you go to these kind of normal, like, avenues to try to solve that problem. Yes. Where I see big companies go to their pocketbook, right? And they go to buy technology that does segmentation, that does personalization, right? Which is a very common way to enhance like the engagement in your marketing. Not wrong by any stretch. Yeah. But think of how much more powerful that would be if you also did this much cheaper thing and like just change the perspective on how you're talking to your customers is a very different. So it's challenging in that, because that is just your natural kind of drive. Like you said, it's so hard to get yourself outside of thinking of yourself as the hero. You're not alone. Like I told you this before, I like validate that I feel that same way, right? Like that is, so that's why it's hard to like I get it, seems conceptually right, but like we got to sell stuff. So we're going to go out and say, we're the best, and we sell this and we do that. It's sort of how it goes.
Yeah. If I don't tell the world that we're good at this thing, they're not going to know, and they're not going to buy from me.
Right.
That's a fear that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a long time too, I struggled even just with the label of hero.
Yes.
So I'm more familiar with it and comfortable with that kind of language. But I would suspect that a lot of people wouldn't even identify. Like, well, I'm not a hero. Like, who do you think you are? You know, hero. It's a label for a character in a story
Right.
that, you know, we could say protagonist.
Sure.
It's a little right, but it's the same.
But there's labels out there now of like main character energy, main character syndrome. That's sort of like a thing. It's just, but it is sort of how we are wired.
Right.
Is sort of we wake up that way, and so it's not unusual to feel that in your life because you wake up, you want to conquer your day, you want to be a great dad, you want to be a great mom, you want to like do all these wonderful things that you have control over. So it's sort of like a natural place to put yourself to be able to do that.
Yep, and it's a necessary survival tactic.
Yes.
Also.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. You've mentioned a few times StoryBrand.
Mm-hmm.
You've said Don Miller.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of Don Miller, StoryBrand. In fact, when I came into One Accord, Don Miller, StoryBrand, and EOS were the two. Like I say, we like underdogs. I like underdogs. So I'm like, I'm the underdog. Those two guys are on top. I'm coming after you, right?
I love it.
And not that I would try to compete with or do anything similar to what Don has done with StoryBrand, because that's just not the lane that I'm swimming in.
Sure.
But how he has built StoryBrand and Business Made Simple, those are things that I admire.
Yeah.
So that's the framework that you operate within.
Yeah, so I read the original Building a Story Brand about 7 years ago, listened to his original podcast, and that's what got me hooked on it. But, just like any other business book, you would read it and you got to take pieces from it and you're going to apply it here and there. I never thought I would, end up doing it more full time. But as I started to implement it here and there, I just got so much more fascinated by how much more depth there was to it that I went and got the certification to be a StoryBrand coach, and then wanted to bring it to a lot more clients. So I'm also a big fan of Don Miller. Had a chance to be around him and meet him at there's a StoryBrand summit that happens for all the coaches and guides in Nashville that I got to go to my first one last year, which was fantastic. Can't wait to go again next year. I think it's just a good collection of entrepreneurs, people who see the same way that I see, marketing, and just be able to inspire each other. Like, everyone has a different spin on how they bring it to market, how they help their clients, and some people are just more nonprofit focused, or I kind of have this moments that matter spin that fits me a little bit better. Some people are web designers, some people are copywriters, right? Like, lots of different spins on how StoryBrand coaches go to market, but it's fun to be around that energy.
Yeah, and I like his content.
Yeah,
he kind of goes wide.
Yeah,
in he talks about life, he talks about relationships. He's kind of like, there's some personal.
Yeah.
Then he's got Business Made Simple, business operating system, then StoryBrand, this marketing thing, and
he's done a great job, and his team has been a fantastic add-on to what he started. Right, like, it started off with just him and JJ Peterson, and on the podcast, and it's so fun to meet the team around him when I was in Nashville, and all the people that sort of make StoryBrand what it is, and support all the coaches, right? Support all the coaches as best they can, give us the resources to be able to help. And we get to that we build a community with each other, say like, hey, I tried this and this didn't work, or someone will ask in the community like, oh, have you done this? Or when I'm beginning and I'm putting together my accounting, like, how do I do that? Right? Everyone kind of helps each other out to begin. So I think what he's created is so cool because it will outlast him, I think. Right, which is what I think a lot of us want when we build our business, is that it is meant to and can outlast him in what it does.
That's such an interesting. That notion is really at the core of the work we do. I use different language. I would say that the number one factor in determining or driving, let's say, enterprise value. So the value of a business.
Right.
Let me replace that with the longevity of a business. Its survivability is how dependent is the company on its owner. A company that is entirely dependent on its owner, when the owner is gone, the company is gone.
Right.
Don Miller, at this stage of the game, StoryBrand is enough of a brand that it will survive him, as will Business Made Simple.
Yeah.
So that he has achieved that status.
Yeah. I think it's an important distinction for a lot of business owners out there. Is my guess is that as you build, and you've probably seen this a lot more than me, I'm just sort of making an assumption that is a hard thing to do and let go. And
the hardest.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah.
You've probably seen that a ton.
Yes. I mean, that is the problem that we endeavor to solve.
Yes.
And it's interesting. We take the owner operator, and often they have the title of CEO, but they wear the hat of chief revenue officer and chief operations officer.
Right.
Even if they've hired a VP of sales and a GM, they're still that the owner operator is often still the final decision, the first decision. Revenue is often the last thing that an owner will entirely hand over. One, out of fear and control, but also out of necessity.
Sure.
So, very interesting examination. One Accord, 25 years. Jeff, my partner, the founder, I could say that for the whole time I've known the firm, we've got One Accord and Jeff Rogers, and the two are synonymous. Right. That's it. So my effort since joining the firm in January of 2024 has been to decouple Jeff from One Accord, but to do so in a way that is so delicate, so gentle. You know, we are partners in the company. He's not gone by any means, but he is in the role of chairman. I'm CEO. He is, anyhow, there's a lot to that story, but this decoupling so that One Accord can continue for the next 25 years.
Yeah.
In doing so, I don't want to replace Jeff with Nick. Right. And just perpetuate
the same problem. Yes.
Right. So these, like, we live the challenges that our clients that we help them fix. I would say perhaps the same thing is true in your world, right? How do you take your own medicine with applying the guide philosophy inside of Guide the Hero? How do you do that?
So for me, it is a matter of, it is just as challenging as any of my clients, because I have the same challenge, which is I naturally sort of put myself in that spot. So for me, it's just a matter of, I will sometimes let others read my stuff, other StoryBrand coaches, other StoryBrand guides, to give me some feedback. Also, then I will just, anytime I'm critiquing somebody else's, I will then try to take a step back and say, hey, am I doing that?
Right.
Am I doing that? It's more of a self-awareness check. So that's really how I do it, because it is hard, but it is a hard challenge, because then I'll go back and fix one thing or another. And because I was going to ask you the same thing, is then how do you, for your clients, how do you get them to realize that they need to be able to step back or step out, or that in order for their business to survive them, how do you convince them of that problem?
It's wonderful question. The first answer is, we wrote a book about it. This book called Your Business Could Be Worth More. It is based on that notion that enterprise value, I could sell my business for $100 million, right? We've got tons of data, 25 years of client interactions, data that's information. And I spend thousands of dollars a year buying industry data, right? So there's
Right.
this book is full of data. What do the data say? The number one lever to pull is owner dependence.
Mm-hmm.
Owners are the constraint, they're the bottleneck to growth. If all of the revenue is tied to the owner, there's a big risk. Here's what often happens, when we could have a $35 million a year company. And for a lot of people, like, that's a lot of money. That's a big business. By, definition, that's a small business in America. But
Right.
seriously, somebody that's generating $35 million in revenue, but that person could have every operational procedure just in their head.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, these are folks that we work with,
Right.
and they've built the business, they've run the business, they know the business. One of the things that we can say is, can you take a vacation? Oh yeah, I could take a vacation. For how long? Well, we were just out of town for long weekend, 4-day weekend. Cool, 4 days. Can you go for a week? Yeah, I could probably go for a week. Could you do 2 weeks? My emails would just be stacked up. And I mean, I could do it, but I'd have to work. Could you take a month off? Could you take a month off with no email and no phone calls? Right? And if the answer is no, which it is, and myself included. I mean, I did a 4-day weekend. I'm going to be unburying myself from emails all weekend, right? So I get it. If a person can't detach themselves from the company for a month, they don't own the business. The business owns them. They're not a business owner. They are self-employed. Right? Now, there might be value to that company. They could sell it. It could be, they could be an HVAC shop that are being gobbled up by private equities all over the place, right? So there is that. There's lots of scenarios here. Our kind of ideal is built around this notion to build it to sell it, build a company that you could sell it, and then you might not want to. So then you make yourself an owner, not an owner operator. And when we start most people who come to us come because they want that. They come because they tried to sell the business and they couldn't because the market was like, I need to buy you with the business.
Right.
I'll buy your company, but you have to stay for 5 years. And they're like, no. Or they're going through some like period of transition. So they're the hero, we're the guide. They're the herald is calling them over. Hey, you could expand from the West Coast to nationwide. And he's like, I don't know how to do that. Well, we know how to do that. We've done that. Okay. Or like they're in the battle with the villain and they just lost, 2 of their biggest customers, which represent 50% of their revenue because they had massive concentration. So they lose 2 clients, but it's half their revenue. Big trouble.
Yeah.
So then they're, help. So that's how they're coming to us.
Yeah.
Almost all of these roads point back to the founder being hypercritical to the company. That is not a quick problem to solve. This is a multi-year, takes a long time to get there.
Right.
Takes me a long time to put myself in the position of guide versus hero. And even, we take our own medicine here.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you are examining someone else's storytelling and you're like, oh, well, you should do this. And then you're like, but do I do that? Right. So
yeah,
every day,
yeah,
I'm like, oh, we need to do this internally.
Yeah.
We need to do this internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big Mel Robbins, the famous Mel Robbins would say, right, in this let them theory idea, I just finished her book, and like the idea that you can't force somebody to have some sort of realization, the best way is to demonstrate it, is to do it. and be that. And,
Yeah.
and like, and because the only way is if they finally realize it on their own, if it was their idea somehow, and if you did a good job, if we did a good job of planting the seed such that they believe then that was their idea, then we did our jobs, right? Like,
Yeah.
so you have to give them enough information, and then being able to demonstrate it, be able to do it is one of the best, strongest ways that, you know, that's what Mel Robbins would say. And I believe it. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's very self-aware of you as a company, as a leader, to be able to do that for One Accord. I think it's a great way forward, because you can always point back and like, this is what we did. We are doing this. We are in the middle of this.
And when I point to what we do, it is messy. It is imperfect.
Yeah.
It's almost embarrassing. I mean, really. And so then I have tremendous empathy. Like,
yeah.
we use what's referred to in the industry, kind of inside baseball, as a business operating system. We use 90.io as a software to help us guide just how we operate our business. And this is like, how do we do meetings? How do we track our KPIs? How do we establish new processes? Like, just how we run our business. This is the same system that we implement with our clients. And we started using it when I came in January of 2024. If I was to show you our adoption rate and how effective we were in this system, I would be embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, literally, this is a case study on, right? But when we are advising clients to use it, and they're going through the same things we went through, I don't have this like pious, like, oh, you should. I'm like, no, I get it. That thing that you're struggling with, that was hard for me to adopt to,
right.
to make sense of, to wrap my head around. And so we operate our company on 3 core values. They've been this way since the beginning: truth, compassion, and service. We have to deliver truth to our clients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we have to do so with compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen, your company cannot survive without you, and that's a big risk. And I understand, because not only have I been there, but I am there right now.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of the reasons that you are as successful as you are is specifically for that, especially that last one. Just in my mind, as I'm listening to you, and we've talked about the guide, and you not always seeing yourself there, but by expressing empathy, by doing exactly what you describe of like, we've done this and this is messy and I get it. It is the perfect way to place yourselves. I always like to say, like, insert yourselves in the customer story as the guide by saying, like, I understand. I have been there. I've seen it happen 100 times. Clients tell me exactly. And that makes the customer feel like, oh my God, somebody else understands this complicated problem that I have, right? Yeah. Like, if you go to a therapist and you explain something and they understand you, yeah. and they can tell you, oh, you're probably feeling this and this and this and this probably happened. And someone's like, oh my God.
I think of the ideal counselor for someone who's struggling with chemical addiction,
mm-hmm.
is someone who's a recovered addict.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's an extreme example in the world of entrepreneurship. It's like, listen, I'm prescribing this. This is what you should do. I did it,
mm-hmm.
and it was hard. But I also have to be able to show the receipts.
Yes.
I have to be able to demonstrate that on the other side of this,
mm-hmm.
there are real results.
Right.
So we were 2024, our first year in kind of new systems, 2025, and we start the year and we are seeing record revenues, increased, like the pipeline doubled in size. The number of people that wanted to come work with us was growing steadily. And so those were early indications.
Yeah.
Early indications a year after, right?
Right.
So these process. So it's like, even back to the the work that you do with clients, you could have a 1-day workshop, and that owner can walk away with "You'll love the way you look," their own Men's Warehouse tagline.
Right.
They're gonna feel like we nailed it. But the rest of the world hasn't heard that yet.
Right.
Like,
right.
So you're going to be following up, and it's there's this philosophy, this ideology. I can't place it, but someone who decides they're going to climb a mountain, just making the decision is a big decision.
Yeah.
And then they tell their friends, and their friends compliment them, and that gives the person the boost, and that might have been all that they need, so they never climb the mountain. Right? Or I go into the gym on January 2nd and I sign up for my new membership, and I buy one-on-one personal training, and that one-on-one personal trainer is just fired up, and Wade, this is so good for you, you should be proud of yourself right now. And I walk out of the gym and I'm like, that's awesome. I'm going to go eat some of that cinnamon cake.
Right.
Right? Because I got this gym membership.
Yeah.
But you got to show up.
You
got to show up.
Right.
And so just crafting the story is only the beginning.
Right. And so what I always tell clients is like, the brand script for your company is just the beginning, because you can actually do that same exercise for every single individual campaign. Because now you're like, okay, we're going after this specific target segment now, or now we're going to do this thing for this holiday, and we want to make sure, like, so you can utilize this and practice it, like just like any other thing, on a different campaign or in social. And like, think of how many, if you have that many posts, like how often you need to sort of remind yourself on this. And so the repetition is what makes it more of a habit, and makes it more of a thing that like is ingrained in your marketing. One of the greatest compliments I ever got was the global coffee and coffee education team at Starbucks. Some of my favorite clients and some of my favorite people. Shout out to Beth Ann and Lennon and Kelvin out there and that team. One of the best compliments I ever got was like, we did a kind of an abbreviated StoryBrand workshop together. And months and months later, came back and said, every once in a while we're in a meeting, and one of us will say, how do we show up more like a guide here? And I was like, best compliment ever. Right. Because it just kind of like got ingrained so that now you ask the question, how can we show up more like a guide here? Was a great compliment, because it takes repetition, because it takes some of that practice.
So good. So good. Man, I appreciate the conversation. Yeah. The dialogue. Was there anything that you wanted to cover that we didn't get?
No, I think this is all great. I had notes on all kinds of stuff, just depending on where you wanted to go. But since this is called the Value Factory, I had some questions for you. Is that okay? If Absolutely. I'm going to do a little bit of
flip the script. Let's go.
Let's do that. So since it's called the Value Factory, what does creating value mean to you? Like, what does that mean when you talk about creating value for companies? What does that mean to you?
I'm going to answer that. Okay. Value means different things for different people. Yeah. So what it means to me is not what it means to you. Right. What creating value in the context of One Accord means is necessitates an understanding of what our clients, how they define value. So I refer to all of my clients as either Bob or Sally. Okay. Love it. Because we don't name names, right? That's right. And Sally may want something that Bob doesn't. Right. Sally's value might mean that this idea that she came up with, this business that she created, she wants to sell it, and there's a numerical value on that, right? Bob might have a numerical value, but his number could be higher or lower. Sally might want to pass the business on to the next generation. Right? And I can think of There's a Sally that we're working with right now. She wants to pass the business on, not to her kids, but to the team. She wants it to be a management succession.
Yeah.
There's another Sally that we're not working with, but have talked to, and she wants to pass the business to her kids. Now, there's a Bob and a Sally that work together in a business, and they just want out. They're ready. Let's just, cash in our chips, and we're going to go on and do the next thing.
Okay.
So for some, value in the business is just write me a check. For others, it's I want to continue to own the business, but I don't want to work in it. So I'd like owner distributions, but not a CEO salary. For others, it's I want this legacy to pass on to my kids because my grandfather started the business 100 years ago. Great grandfather started 100 years ago, and I want it to live for another 100 years. Value means different things to different people.
Yeah.
For me, creating value, Jeff and I are 50-50 partners in the company. I would like in 5 years for the people that help us grow over the next 5 years and the people who have actually built the company, I want them to be owners.
Yeah.
I want them to be partners. And I want One Accord to become a partnership like a law firm or a CPA firm or professional services where it's owned by partners. That to me is creating value. And there is absolutely an economic driver to that. And there's it's not altruistic, but it's the vision. It's that we are building together. I'm a community guy.
I love that. I think it's great. As I was thinking about coming on here and talking about value, I immediately go back to like the academic sort of like when I was in grad school, in business school, we talk about value, and the value is really just like I pay this price or I'm going to get this dollar amount, but there's more value above that, right? Like I feel like I might have paid more, like it's worth way more than what I paid, and that's kind of what I feel like is value, right? In at the academic sense, right? More of like an interaction. But I would see that, I would think that that's true for owners who want to get a certain amount of value back. In their heads, they see different value than a buyer because they know so much more. There's more like blood, sweat, and tears that like is in it that someone from outside wouldn't see. So they have, so I imagine your job is help them to kind of like find a point where they can agree on what that value is. But it's like a really interesting thought, this idea of value, because you want to feel like, so if you buy a commodity, like an apple and an orange, you might feel like I didn't really get value. I just got exactly what I paid for. I got
utility.
Right. I got exactly this. But the example that I was thinking about was like, my son is in 4th grade and we're trying to get him to read more chapter books.
Yeah.
He just likes the graphic novel type, like comic type books, which are fine. But I want him to. And so we bought, and he finally read Diary of a Wimpy Kid and really liked one of them. And so we kind of get like excited, like, oh, maybe we get you the whole set, but we don't know if it's worth it. We ended up buying a 16 book set of it, paid $60, but he'll bring his book down to breakfast. He will in the middle time he's reading this book, and we were like, we would have paid way more than that. That's value in my like that's sort of like my way to describe it in like the simplest of kind of like transactional terms. Like that's worth way more than $60 to me because of the value I feel like I got.
So some clients that we worked with, 2 Bobs, and one Bob wanted to sell and one Bob didn't. So for one Bob, the value was cash, and his number was lower than the Bob that didn't want to sell because his value was identity. If he sold the business, he no longer had identity. So then he set his price here.
Because that's worth a lot to him.
That's how much, right? And the trade-off that would be necessary to replace that. So I would say often, if not every time, we work with an owner who is selling externally, that is not to kids, but even in, generationally, we lean into the question, okay, Wade, what's next for you? What's your plan?
Mm-hmm.
And more often than not, the answer is, I don't know, if they're being honest, or it's the like obligatory travel, golf,
Right.
whatever. And and so truth, compassion, service. If I'm going to serve you, I'm going to tell you the truth. You're either lying to me or you're lying to yourself. But I understand because I would do the same thing too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I get it.
You're an entrepreneur, and I'm speaking to you, Wade. You were when you started your dance company. You were when you started your eBay.
Mm-hmm.
You went to work in an agency, but you're an entrepreneur. So now you've got Guide the Hero.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to play golf and travel. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
Even when you're 60.
Right.
You're going to be doing something, building something, because so what's on the other side? And we will lean into that. So we do, we do really distinct like business operations. We put people into companies. So like actually what we do is we say, Bob, we're going to promote you from being owner operator to being owner. And we're going to put an operator in. Mm-hmm. So we put somebody in to run companies and to do things. It's kind of a staffing model, but different.
Yeah.
And then we bring in business operating systems, business coaching and structure to go alongside that. So these two things, they come side by side. So Bob, when we do this, you're not going to be working in the business as much. Not right away.
Sure.
But 6 months from now, you're going to have more time on your hands. I think what we need to do is pair you up with an advisor, a mentor, a life coach, a somebody. And a lot of Bobs are like, life coach, I'm not into that. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, let's just find somebody that can help you imagine what's next. Because we don't want you to regret. Here's some data. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like 15% or less, 15% or less of companies, of owners who want to sell their business are successful in doing so.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, less than 1 out of 5 people who own a business that would like to sell it are successful in doing so.
Wow.
And then of the people who sell their company, only 20% are highly satisfied with the outcome. So that's 20% of 15%, which for math, that's 3%.
Mm-hmm.
3% of business owners are able to sell and be highly satisfied.
Wow.
I don't like that.
That's staggering.
That makes me angry.
Yeah.
Like I get angry at that. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of being in the 97% that either can't or isn't unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So Bob, let's put you in that 3%. Let's have this conversation 3 years before you want to sell. Mm-hmm. Let's determine what value is. When your company is no longer a part of that value, what will be? What is your purpose? What is your identity?
Yeah.
And for some, they all of a sudden have a lot of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
The biggest fear, Bob's greatest fear, is how will I replace my income? Successful business owners are making very good money.
Right.
So let's just pick a number. For example's sake, let's say Bob's making $1 million a year from his $60 million company.
Mm-hmm.
So he sells the company. Number one fear, how am I going to replace that $1 million?
Mm-hmm.
Now he might have 50 million in the bank.
Right.
Before or after tax. So there's some tax planning here.
Sure.
Okay. But that's different than getting $1 million a year from a company that we perceive is going to always pay income. It's like, nope, that's all I got now. Mm-hmm. So can we invest that to get the return that pays the $1 million a year?
Mm-hmm.
But then people are going to call it. Hey, Bob, I got this investment opportunity. I got this thing. Right. So, I mean, the best example that most people understand are professional athletes. right? That when they leave the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, whatever it is, like they blow all their money because they've been professional athletes. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, what's my purpose? What's my thing? Okay. This is a long, long answer to your question about value and what we see. We need to understand, but Bob needs to understand, and Sally needs to understand what she values. What is the role of the business in that, in their identity? On the other side, what can supplant, replace, right? What can they build next? Entrepreneurs or builders. How do we protect this asset, this cash that's coming in from tax liability, but also from impulse decisions?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's build the safety net around Sally and Bob for that next season in life. Right?
It's a part of of what you do that I didn't really think about, and I think it's really smart to like help the owner be excited about what's next in order for that whole process to be smooth. Because if they don't get excited about what's next, it's going to be even harder to like get them to do that. I think it's a really smart way, a smart aspect of it that I hadn't really thought about until you just mentioned that. I love it. I think it's great.
There's a Bob in our world that we've had some conversations with, and he's been very successful. Really, really successful. And what he has right now are 5 different brands across a large geographic area in the United States that he owns all of them. They operate independently to a degree. There's a little bit of ownership difference between the entities, but he is the majority owner. Okay? He's got 2 sons. He's not sure, and they're not sure if they want to take over the business, but it's a viable option. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to roll these entities up and to examine whether or not an intergenerational transfer. And so I said, okay, Bob, here's what we got to do. We got to bring your kids in. We got to bring the minority owners in the different entities. We need your attorney. We need your CPA. We need your financial advisor. We need all your people. Maybe not in the first conversation together, but at some point, everybody needs to be aware of the plan and bought into the plan. Because if you, Bob, try to do this thing without their collective engagement, their buy-in, at best, it's going to be a rocky execution.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
At best, it's going to be a rocky execution, and at worst, it's going to fail.
Yeah.
Very delicate. Right? Family transfers, really delicate. So, a lot of things. There's more off the balance sheet than there is on the balance sheet in the work that we do.
Oh, yeah, so, you have to be like family therapists too.
This is why we structure ourselves in a way that we'll put somebody into a company to be the head of sales, the head of revenue, to help them achieve that revenue goal, or somebody in the head of operations to build out an operational structure that can see them through, or we'll put somebody in as a CEO or president to start to take Sally or Bob out of the company and let it run on its own.
Yeah.
But we don't ever send someone into a company to do that solo. We always accompany them actually with a guide. Yeah. So our operator, is in there, but we bring in the business coach, the client success manager, the person there that ensures all of the stakeholders are aligned and that we're on scope. It's one of the differentiators of our firm versus folks that play in the same sandbox that we do.
That makes sense. I love it. Thank you. That was my question I had. I wanted, since we're at the Value Factory, I figured we'd talk value.
Well, thanks for asking that. Yeah. It's kind of the theme. We've got our gears, and the idea came from a friend of mine who worked with us for 3 years as our director of business development. And he would say, One Accord is kind of like a value factory. you put the business in one side and it goes through the machine. It comes out the other side with, increased value.
Yeah.
Right. So great name for
I love it.
our podcast.
I love it. As you have, my last question was just really about, as you've started to produce these podcasts, is there anything that you've learned in this process that you were surprised about as you're producing these and putting these together? I know these are coming out, a little bit later on. What has surprised you maybe about putting these together?
I'd say the greatest learning is on the behind the scenes, the technical aspect.
Sure.
Like you'll hear people say, "Oh, anybody can do a podcast. Just stand your iPhone up there and record it."
Right.
And no, not that way. At least not with my vision. In talking with people, the surprise, the observation is that when someone sits in the chair that you're sitting in, and even when I sit in this chair that I sit in, we take on a different persona. It's somebody's watching, somebody's listening. Whatever I'm saying can be played back again.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of Joe Rogan and his format because I perceive it to be very real.
Yeah, more authentic.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning as the host, first about myself. How can I, in the context of this conversation, how can I show up as a guide, demonstrate the way to be in a conversation? Because anyone who's listening to other people talk is going to know right away if I'm listening to a commercial or if I'm listening to a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
And on some level, I don't know if I believe that the validity of the content is as important as the authenticity of the people. You and I could talk about something and a watcher, a listener may not learn a thing. I'm reminded of Alex Hormozy saying, more often than not, we need reminders, not lessons. So that can be good.
Yeah.
But if people perceive that we're just, posturing ourselves to advance our own brands, they're not going to listen.
Right.
And so I don't yet know how to, even in my own self, not show up in that way.
Yeah.
I'm just programmed.
Right. Well, I think you're doing great. This has been fun. Nice. I've enjoyed it. It's so funny you say that too. Even for when I record myself for a video on social or something like that, I'll show my 6-year-old daughter, and she'll ask me, "Can you try to talk like that? You don't talk like that. Can you try to do that so I can see it?" She's doesn't see me in the same way as what it shows up on video. It's funny that you said, because it's just harder, especially when you're by yourself, to be as authentic.
But so in your head, right?
And so it makes it a lot easier to have somebody to talk with, to feel that way. So I appreciate that. And I enjoy the format. It's much easier, much more relaxed than these specific questions. It was great. It's a great experience on my end. So thank you for having me. This has been fantastic.
Now my kids will tell me Dad, is this another motivational speech? You sound like one of your reels, Dad.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's good. Well, man, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah,
thanks for the conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Let's do it again.
I'm ready whenever you want it. Let's go.
All right. Well, there it is. Another episode of The Value Factory. I hope that you've enjoyed hearing Wade and me talk about the hero's journey, StoryBrand, what it is to find the truth and the authenticity behind yourself being the guide to the hero that is your customer. Great conversation. We'll see you next time.